I want to make things very clear from the start. My choice not to vote is not because I'm lazy, uninformed, or don't care about my country. It's actually the opposite. I care so much that I refuse to lend my voice, my time, and my effort to a system that has proven time and time again that it works for politicians first, and the people, maybe, if there's anything left over.
Jamaica have a lifeline! How about this?
When people talk about elections, they come with the same set of lines. Your vote matters. If you don't vote, you can't complain. It's your civic duty. And in Jamaica, those lines are repeated like gospel. Recently, I saw Dionne Jackson Miller make a case for why we should all vote, especially young folks like myself. But here is the truth. Every one of those arguments crumbled the moment you take a look at our politics and how it really operates. And if you've been paying attention, especially to the massive pay rise our politicians gave themselves, you'll understand exactly why I will never stand in a polling line. Now let's talk about this idea that voting is the only way to make change happen. If that is true, Jamaica would be a paradise now. Citizens have been voting for decades. They have switched parties. They have replaced MPs. They have tried different candidates. And yet, ordinary Jamaicans are still battling the problems, crime, unemployment, and a weak dollar. Not to mention broken infrastructure and rising costs of living. So the faces in Gordon House might change, but the struggles in our house remain exactly the same. Now here is the part that truly hurts. While we're told to be patient, to understand that change takes time, these same politicians moved with a lightning speed to approve a massive salary increase for themselves. We're talking about some MPs and ministers getting pay bumps of over 200%, tripling their salaries, while the rest of the country is being told to tighten our belts. Imagine working in a company where the bosses give themselves luxury level raises in the middle of a cost of living crisis, while you, the worker, get a tiny fraction, or in many cases, nothing at all. Would you clap for that? Would you keep working for that company without protest? Then there's the line, your vote matters. In theory, yes, every vote counts, but in reality, in Jamaica, there are constituencies that have voted for the same party for decades. Some of what we call safe seats, or even garrison communities, where the result is already decided long before election day. In those areas, you could gather everyone who actually wanted change, and the numbers would still not be enough to swing the seat. And in the areas that do swing, tell me honestly, has it ever changed enough to transform your life? Dionne also said, by not voting, I am giving up my voice. But here is where I disagree. Sometimes the loudest thing that you can do is refuse to play the game. When you do not vote, you are not saying I don't care. You are saying I see corruption, I see the greed, and I won't put my name beside it. Choosing not to vote can be an act of protest, a refusal to legitimize a system that enriches itself while failing the people it's supposed to serve. Now let's go back to the pay rise again, because it's not just a headline, it's the clearest proof of where priorities really lie. Ordinary public sector workers, after years of negotiation, got a 7.5% increase. And even that was not a bonus or an act of generosity. It was simply a delayed entitlement from earlier agreements. Minimum wage workers, they saw a jump from $15,000 to $16,000 for a 40-hour week. That's an extra $1,000, maybe enough just to carry a bag of rice and a bottle of oil. Meanwhile, our leaders are walking away with raises that could pay a yearly rent for multiple families. That is not leadership. That is feeding yourself while the people watch from empty plates. Now, the economic debate that we have seen recently on TVJ News has changed nothing. Instead of clarity, Jamaicans got fireworks, everyone shouting at each other, lies, it cannot be done. One side yelled, tell us where the money is going to come from. The other countered, but no one gave a straight answer. No breakdown of which programs would be cut, what revenue sources would be tapped into, what new efficiencies would be found. The public was left precisely where it started, confused, frustrated, and unfulfilled, something that Dionne Jackson Miller herself admitted. That was not a debate. It was as if they came to fight for sound bites instead of solutions. And that right there, folks, is a perfect example of why I can't buy into this system. When it's time to explain themselves to people, they give us noise. But when it's time to give themselves a raise, the details are sharp, the numbers are clear, and the decision is instant. And this is why the argument about civic duty falls flat for me. Civic duty is supposed to be a two-way street. Citizens fulfill their part by obeying laws, paying taxes, and participating in a democratic process. But the leaders are supposed to fulfill their duty by acting with integrity, serving the people's interests, and ensuring fairness. If one side keeps breaking their duty, why should the other side keep playing along? You wouldn't keep lending money to someone who never pays back. So why do you keep lending your vote to politicians who have proven that they will use it to benefit themselves first? Another reason I refuse to vote is because I've seen how quickly politicians can act when it benefits them versus how slow they move when it's something for the people. That pay rise did not need endless town hall meetings. It did not require a national consultation, and it sure did not take a decade to implement. But the fixing of the health system, addressing violent crime, raising the standard of living for the poor, suddenly it's all complicated and it will take time. Some people will say, well, if you don't vote, how do you expect things to change? And my answer is, change doesn't always start in a ballot box. It starts in our communities, in our businesses, in our movements. I'd rather spend my energy supporting community projects, mentoring youth, and building self-reliance than giving power to people who will only remember my existence when they need my vote. The truth is, Jamaica's political system has been surviving on the hope that people will keep believing that their vote automatically equals to change. But hope without results becomes delusional. And people, remember, I am an Arsenal fan, so I can attest to that. And when politicians can triple their salaries in the middle of a cost of living crisis, while the average Jamaican is scrambling to find bus fare, that is not a democracy that is working for people. That is a club looking out for its own members. So yes, Dionne can make her case for why voting is important. And for some people, maybe it still is. But for me, I have seen enough. I've seen the corruption. I've seen the broken promises. I've seen the neglect. And I've seen the greed. I've seen politicians move mountains for themselves and not even lift a pebble for the people. Until that changes, my answer stays the same. I will never vote. Not because I do not care, but because I care too much to endorse a system that has failed us so badly. And every time I think about those pay rises, every time I see politicians smiling in their tailored suit while the fellow Jamaican is hustling just to put food on the table, it reminds me why I can stand firm in that decision. They have made it clear who they're working for, and it is not us. Now, in conclusion, at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. We are told that voting is the ultimate tool for change, yet decade after decade, the problems stay the same. We are told our voices matter, yet entire debates, like the recent so-called economic debate, end with nothing but shouting and finger pointing, leaving Jamaicans in the dark about how policies will actually be paid for. We are told to do our civic duty, but the same leaders who lecture us about duty have no problem tripling their own salaries while ordinary workers scrape on by crumbs. When politicians can move mountains for themselves but can't lift a stone for people, that is not democracy at work. That is self-interest in plain sight. And if the ballot box only serves to legitimize that self-interest, then refusing to vote becomes not apathy, but protest. So when I put it all together, the broken promises, the empty debates, the neglect of ordinary Jamaicans, and the outrageous pay rise for the politicians, my choice is simple. I will never vote. But that is my decision. Let me hear yours. Do you still believe that voting makes a difference in Jamaica, or do you share some of my same frustrations? Drop your thoughts below in the comment section and let's talk about it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.